Welcome back to The Breakdown with me, NLW. It's a daily podcast on macro, Bitcoin, and the big picture power shifts remaking our world. What's going on, guys? It is Monday, May 20th, and today we are talking about the next crypto political fight with the industry rallying. Before we get into that, however, if you are enjoying The Breakdown, please go subscribe to it, give it a rating, give it a review, or if you want to dive deeper into the conversation, come join us in the Breakers Discord. You can find a link in the show notes or go to bit.ly/breakdownpod. Well, friends, obviously last week was all about this big sea change and shift represented by the vote against SAB 121. And this week, we're taking the momentum from that battle and putting it into a new proactive domain. Specifically, 60 US crypto firms have banded together to support the Financial Innovation and Technology for the 21st Century Act. Known as FIT21, the bill will set out market structure and regulatory authority for the crypto industry. After more than a year of negotiations between parties, Republican lawmakers are pushing the bill onto the House floor for a vote, which is expected to take place later this week. The letter in support of the bill was prepared by the Crypto Council of Innovation, or CCI, and features many of the biggest players in the industry. That includes exchanges such as Coinbase, Kraken, and Gemini, as well as investment firms like Andreessen Horowitz and Digital Currency Group. It was sent to the House leaders of both parties in hopes of encouraging strong bipartisan support. The letter from CCI said, "We recognize that FIT21 will introduce new compliance challenges for digital asset companies, but regulatory clarity is indisputably more responsible, safer for consumers, and preferable to the status quo. Currently, digital assets firms are instructed to somehow comply with US securities laws that were designed nearly 100 years ago, without consideration of the technological advances of today, including the ability for transactions to move at the speed of the internet." Overall, the letter sent the clear message that the industry is getting behind crypto regulation in the US, as the current situation is benefiting no one. The CCI urged crypto voters to contact their representatives ahead of the vote. G. Kim, CCI's head of global policy, said, "As we all know, no bill is perfect. What this bill does do is establish a comprehensive federal regulatory framework that has been missing. We look forward to working with policymakers on next steps to move the industry forward in a way that best protects consumers and ensures innovation stays in the US." The CCI noted that in just a few short years, the US has now fallen behind the EU, the UK, Singapore, Japan, South Korea, the UAE, Brazil, and Australia, all of whom have made significant regulatory progress. At this stage, analysts believe it's unlikely that FIT21 will progress through the Senate, even if it's passed in the House. Last week, investment bank TD Cowen wrote that the bill stood, quote, "no chance of becoming law in this Congress." However, they believe the bill would function as another opportunity for lawmakers to signal their positions on crypto policy. Pro-crypto House Democrats think the bill is well positioned to generate support. The last 2 weeks saw a large number of Democrats vote against administration policy to repeal the SEC's SAB 121. Democrat Wiley Nickel thinks the momentum is building, stating, "I think we're going to see a larger group of Democrats in support of this new bill." From where I'm sitting, it's really hard to know exactly how this vote will turn out. SAB 121 was widely viewed as a nonsensical rule that harmed investors by making crypto custody more dangerous. It had also already been taken to task by the GAO. All of that made it relatively easy for Democrats to justify supporting a repeal, even with the threat of a presidential veto hanging over the vote. FIT21, on the other hand, is a crypto regulatory framework. And while theoretically you'd think that that would be a good thing, voting for the bill would undermine what seemed to have become a core thesis for many establishment Democrats during this Congress, that crypto should not be granted a shred of legitimacy via regulation. Messari CEO Ryan Selkis highlighted the political dynamics at play in a Twitter thread. He noted that this is a high-stakes vote for House Democrat leader Hakeem Jeffries, who hopes to become the Speaker of the House following the election. Selkis also thinks that Financial Services ranking member Maxine Waters has a legacy-defining choice on this bill. Jeffries reportedly defers to committee leaders on these kinds of votes. Waters theoretically hasn't been opposed to getting crypto legislation done, but the events of 2022 and the rise of Elizabeth Warren's anti-crypto army have made it politically difficult to make progress. Selkis said he previously attended a meeting with Jeffries which was filled with subtext. His main takeaway was a statement from Jeffries that, quote, "Politics may be a team sport, but Maxine Waters answers to no one in the Senate." Still, Selkis thinks that last week's vote on SAB 121 has, quote, "opened the door for a bipartisan FIT21 vote." Waters could make a similar decision as Chuck Schumer did in the Senate last week and give tacit permission for House Democrats to break with the party line. That would send a clear message to Warren and her allies in the White House that support for the anti-crypto agenda is collapsing. For Democrats in DC, the crypto noise has become deafening. And this is exactly what crypto tends to do. At this stage, it must seem to many of them that crypto has moved suddenly from a minor topic to an election-defining issue. Sheila Warren, the CEO of the Crypto Council for Innovation, and Justin Slaughter, policy director at Paradigm, wrote an op-ed for Fortune over the weekend discussing the rise of the crypto voter. Their takeaway: if Democrats don't at least try to appeal to this voting bloc, they risk sending them over to Donald Trump. In an election as important as this one, with Biden down in the polls, Democrats should be looking to get crypto voters into the tent, not thoughtlessly driving them away. Hello, Breakers. Today's episode is sponsored by Ledger. As another cycle ramps up, it's another chance to think about your Bitcoin custody best practices, and of course, to help all the new folks do the same. Ledger is the global platform for securing Bitcoin and other crypto. Ledger combines both hardware wallets and the Ledger Live app to offer the best way to buy, sell, swap, and stake without sacrificing on security or self-custody. Ledger features cutting-edge technology in the form of a certified secure chip and a proprietary operating system, but also brings ease of use. This makes Ledger a safe and secure way to manage your digital assets without all the stress. Check out the link to the Bitcoin Ledger Nano in the show notes. 5% of all sales of the Bitcoin Ledger Nano go to support Bitcoin development. Thanks once again to Ledger for supporting The Breakdown. Now, we're talking a lot about the shifting support in DC, or potentially shifting sands of support in DC for these sort of crypto bills, but it's also notable the extent to which the industry has lined up behind this particular bill. That hasn't been the case in the past. There has tended to be multiple pieces of legislation that were competing for different groups within crypto's affinity. It feels to me like the decision has widely been made to get behind the FIT21 Act and make it essentially a referendum on crypto rather than just a legislative exercise. Now, part of that could just be pure strategic calculus. It seems very unlikely from where everyone is sitting that this could pass in the Senate, and so in some ways it seems like it's all about running up the score in the House to show just how much popular attitudes among elected representatives have changed on this issue. The big question to watch here is definitely Maxine Waters. Not so much whether she'll become somehow a full-throated supporter for this, but whether she'll do something similar to Chuck Schumer and give any sort of tacit approval to Democrats who want to vote the opposite direction. Anyways, I'm sure there will be lots and lots of discussion going on this week, and we will come back to it as makes sense. Even beyond the FIT21 vote, this week is setting up to be a huge one for crypto in Washington. The repeal of SOB 121 is currently sitting on the president's desk, awaiting a signature or a veto. Technically, he has until late next week to make a decision, but we could see the White House send a profound anti-crypto message by delivering that veto early. Also, towards the end of this week, we should know whether the SEC has approved or denied Ethereum Spot ETFs. The deadline for the first product is on Thursday, but it could be a few days before we have a full explanation of any decision. A denial is basically universally expected, with Bloomberg ETF analyst James Seyfarth commenting, "It's just not happening, guys. Sorry." Now, he suspects the SEC won't choose to open a can of worms by declaring that ETH is a security in their denial. Instead, he thinks the agency can simply rely on an insufficient correlation between spot and futures markets over the last 3 years. Although the correlation has tightened in that time, spreads were decently wide in 2021, which could allow the SEC to claim that there are insufficient methods for detecting fraud and manipulation in the spot market. Moving beyond just the political decision, there is a growing sense that ETH sentiment might be getting too negative in anticipation of a denial. ETH is down over 12% since the beginning of April, and is lagging right now behind the rest of the crypto market. If the SEC decision only refers to the correlation between spot and futures markets, and doesn't claim that ETH is a security, that could be a ray of hope. It would imply that an ETH ETF isn't permanently off the table, but just that the SEC will need some more correlation data before reconsidering. Coinbase Research, on the other hand, is taking the view that the market is underestimating the odds of an ETH ETF. In a report published on Thursday, analysts wrote, "We think the market may be underestimating the timing and odds of a potential approval. Either may yet have potential to surprise to the upside in the coming months, and does not appear to have major sources of supply-side overhang such as token unlocks or minor sell pressure." Coinbase then suggested that an ETH ETF is a matter of when, not if. Their odds of approval during this round are currently 30 to 40%, which is massively above the current polymarket odds of just 10%. The report explained, "As crypto begins to take form as an election issue, it's also less certain in our view that the SEC would be willing to front the political capital necessary to support a denial." Staying on ETFs for just a minute, after a rough April, ETF flows have noticeably improved in May. Every day last week saw aggregate net inflows across a group of products. Even Grayscale is showing some signs of life, with a single day of outflows offset by 3 positive days in a row to close the week. Net inflows over the past 2 weeks have filled in the entirety of net outflows from April. Daily volumes are also back up to 6 billion, a level not seen since late March. Research firm Sentiment wrote, "Gone are the days of whales only accumulating on-chain. Those whales have shown up in 13F position disclosures over the past month. There's been a few gigantic investment firms taking on large positions, most notably Millennium Management holding 2 billion across multiple products. These positions are almost certainly one leg of a complex trade or general market-making activity, so probably aren't a good indicator of long-term demand for Bitcoin." A better indication came from numerous wealth managers and pension funds. The Wisconsin pension system disclosed a $163 million position, which might be conservative relative to the $156 billion in assets under management, but could go a long way to legitimizing Bitcoin as an investable asset for pensions. It also demonstrates that the Bitcoin ETFs can make it through the onerous due diligence process at these kinds of funds. We've also seen hundreds of millions of dollars in holdings from several major banks. The latest disclosure was from Morgan Stanley, which owns $270 million worth of GBTC. These positions are likely held on behalf of wealth management clients rather than the bank itself. Still, wealth clients are only able to access the Bitcoin ETFs by request, so this is a promising start. Presumably, there's still a lot of demand to be uncovered once financial advisors at the large wealth management firms begin suggesting a Bitcoin allocation to their clients. Overall, more than 900 institutional ETF holders have disclosed their positions. Although about a quarter were hedge funds, presumably in it for the trade, around 60% were longer-term investment firms looking to get their first Bitcoin exposure. So that's it today, a little bit of a short one to kick off our week. I kind of think that we will have plenty of long discussions to come as this political week gets going, but that gives you a framework for what's happening. We've got FIT21, we've got the ETH ETF approvals, and we've got the question of whether Biden will actually veto the SAB 121 repeal. Plenty to be watching this week, and it's only just started. Want to say one more big thank you to my sponsor for today's show. Check out the Ledger Bitcoin Orange Nano. 5% of sales will go to support Bitcoin development. Until next time, be safe and take care of each other. Peace.